Thank you for joining us here at SSC Live TV. Dr. Ken Jobst will be discussing how your dietary habits can assist you in your spiritual goals. Welcome to Taste and See.
Hello once again and welcome to Taste and See on SSC Live TV. My name is Ken Jobst and I'd like to thank you for joining us once again for a journey looking at the intersection of faith and food. What a delight. And you know what? I'm just tickled that you have made this a part of your life. We're having a lot of fun. Tell somebody else, be an Andrew. Let somebody know about Taste and See. Hey, today we're going to be taking a look at some lessons that we can learn from the book of Esther. You know, there are only two books of the Bible that are named after women, Ruth and Esther. And today we want to take a look at something special going on in the book of Esther. Now, from the first chapter of Esther, this is Esther chapter 1, verses 1 through 8. Watch this. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. Now your version might say in the days of Xerxes or Ahasverosh. It all depends on how you're translating from the Persian to the English. If you're going by way of, you know, the Hebrew or whatever. But the emperor's name is Ahasuerus or Xerxes. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus that this was the Ahasuerus who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. In those days, when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the citadel, that in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast for all his officials and servants, the powers of Persia and Media, the nobles and the princes of the provinces being before him, when he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the splendor of his excellent majesty. For many days, 180 days in all. And when those days were completed, the king made a feast lasting 7 more days for all the people who were present in Shushan, the citadel, from great to small, in the court of the garden of the king's palace. There were white and blue linen curtains fastened with cords of fine linen, and purple and silver rods on marble pillars, and the couches were of gold and silver and mosaic pavement of alabaster, turquoise, and white and black marble. And they served drinks in golden vessels, each vessel being different from the other, with royal wine in abundance, according to the generosity of the king. In accordance with the law, the drinking was not compulsory, for so the king had ordered all the officers of his household that they should do according to each man's pleasure. Now here we have the opening of the biblical book of Esther. And how does the book of Esther, which is going to demonstrate the providential rise by the hand of God, the providential rise of Esther to being the queen over all of these provinces and to being the queen of the empire. But how does the story begin? The story begins with a feast. Now, there's a couple of leadership principles that I hope that we're going to recognize in this opening chapter of the book of Esther. And perhaps the most important leadership principle is this. It falls upon the leader to be able to get all the different people to work together toward a common goal. And you know what? That was not easy for Xerxes or Ahasuerus. It wasn't easy for him because he was the emperor over 127 provinces. Think of it. Think of all of the different cultures. Think of all of the different languages, all of the different customs, the way they did this or that, the way commerce was taken care of. All the way, watch, all the way from India to Ethiopia, from Kafiristan and the snows, all the way to the heat of Ethiopia. Now, it's going to take some leadership wisdom and talent and insight to be able to get all of those people groups to work together toward a common goal. Oh, it's okay. It's one thing to conquer different lands. But it's a different thing entirely to be more than a conqueror. I think the Apostle Paul talks about that in the New Testament. We as Christians are called to be more than conquerors, which means we need to be able to have the leadership capability to bring people from a variety of different backgrounds, to bring them together for the common purpose of advancing the cause of Jesus Christ. You know what? Each of us, no matter if we're from one province or another province, we all share the common heritage of Christ. We're all saved by the blood of the Lamb. And so we come together for the purpose of advancing the kingdom. So that's the first lesson of leadership that we get in the book of Esther, is that lesson that the job of the leader is to be able to bring people together. Now, the wisdom of Ahasuerus was this. People love to eat, right? And so what Ahasuerus decided to do was to have a feast. Now, as we continue in Taste and See, you're going to see that the Bible is a book full of feasts. Feasts for a lot of different occasions. You know what? We're just, oh, mercy. We're going to dive into the feasts. But this feast in the book of Esther is remarkable because it's going to involve 127 different provinces. Think of it, 127 different cuisines, different ways of preparing food, different palates, different spices, different textures, different flavors, different times of the day when people are accustomed to eating. 127 different provinces, and this feast was going to go on for half a year. For 6 months, we're going to have a feast. 180 days. And what was the purpose of the feast? The purpose of the feast was to be able to demonstrate to the entire empire the generosity and the glorious riches of the emperor, as well as just the notion of his magnanimity, right? That he was excellent in his majesty. Well, you ever been to a feast? Of course you've been to a feast. You know, feasts of different varieties, feasts of different dimensions. But you know what? In a lot of feasts, a lot of feasts hold this common theme, that the idea is the people come together to enjoy themselves. A feast is based on enjoyment. So today we're going to roll back the barriers of enjoyment, and hopefully we're going to look at the possibilities of enjoying some new food. I've often wondered about what it would be like to have been at this particular feast where you've got people from all these different provinces feasting for 6 months. And I'm sure there was a day when somebody brought something into the feast that everybody else said, oh no, I ain't going to be eating that, right? It might have been somebody brings in a plate full of octopus. Oh, I don't know about eating octopus. Or it could be that somebody brought in a platter full of crab legs or something that no one else had ever seen before, and everybody was a little squeamish. But the folk who brought it thought that, man, this is the best eating that could possibly exist. You know, I'm thinking that today we're going to, we don't have a feast prepared, but we have the next best thing. We have the hors d'oeuvres for the feast, right? Now, hors d'oeuvre is a very interesting French word. The term itself, hors d'oeuvre, means that it's something that is outside of the work, right? So an hors d'oeuvre is not to be considered the meal. It's not to be considered the feast. It's something that is given to you above and beyond the actual work. In Christianese, I'd like to say that the hors d'oeuvre is grace, right? It's a little something for us to get started with. The very first thing that God shares with us is the hors d'oeuvre of divine grace. And today, you know what? We're going to work on a little hors d'oeuvre. And this particular hors d'oeuvre, I'm just going to call quick paté. Quick paté. And I'm going to get us started with my trusty brand new, it's trusty and new. Those can go together. My trusty brand new toaster. And so I've got a couple of just regular old slices of bread. We're going to put those in the toaster, and let's see, how are we going to dial this thing? Let's dial it right about there. Okay. So that's going to yield me some very, very nice toast. What I'm getting ready to make today would fall under the category of heavy hors d'oeuvre, which means, by the way, an hors d'oeuvre should be consumed preferably in one bite. It should be the kind of thing that you can just take, you can nosh on it, one bite and it's gone. You don't want to have half of your hors d'oeuvre waiting, It shouldn't be 2 or 3 or 4 bites. It should ideally be one bite, boom, you're good, right? Today, though, for our quick paté, I don't know how to say this, it's liver. Oh my goodness. What our paté is going to be based on is chicken livers. So I know oh mercy, I've lost so many people already. Wait, come back. Don't be afraid of chicken livers, right? You may not like other types of liver, pork liver, beef liver, calf's liver, I don't know. But the chicken livers, when they're done, when somebody does them that knows what they're doing, oh my goodness, it's an entire world of flavor. Now, I want to say this. There are a couple of different ways of preparing this paté, and I'm calling this quick paté because watch, I just went out and bought chicken livers somebody else already did, right? And so I'm not actually sautéing these livers. These were prepared, and they were prepared with a group of spices that I actually really do like, and they're also prepared without monosodium glutamate, to which, by the way, I am allergic. So I stay away from monosodium glutamate. How's my toast doing? Toasty, good. Anyway, I have these livers, and I purchased these livers at a local purveyor of fried chicken, and I'm going to put a couple of these livers right in our trusty, or I should say yet to be tried, Cuisinart gizmo. So I've got some livers in there, and you know what? The scale of this thing works pretty much just on proportions. So I'm going to put X amount. Oh, look at my toast. Ooh, very nice, very nice. Good toaster, good toaster. Yes, perfect. But the recipe works on scale. So the scale is basically 2 parts of chicken liver, and then, oh, help me out, 2 parts chicken liver, 1/2 part the other ingredients. So I'm going to have 4 times as many chicken livers as anything else that goes in. So I've got my chicken livers, and then I'm going to put in some bacon. I'm just going to break up the bacon and put it right in there with the chicken livers. Just putting it in there like that. And once again, this is all to taste. If you are like me and you absolutely love bacon and the flavor that it brings, go ahead and put as much bacon as you want in there with the chicken livers. Now, from a nutrition standpoint, a lot of folk are saying, whoa, hold on here. Ken, you've got bacon and liver in there. Well, I'm not asking you to eat this every day, all day, right? This is kind of a treat kind of thing. And oh, by the way, if you don't think you like chicken livers, but you're curious enough to give it a go because you saw it on Taste and See, then I recommend you do this. I recommend just go to the poultry department, poultry aisle, poultry part of the meat department of the grocery store, and buy uncooked raw chicken livers, right? Take them home, soak them in milk, cover them in the refrigerator overnight, right? Then the next day, next morning, next afternoon, let them soak for about 24 hours. Then pour off the milk and then batter them and fry them, saute them, however you want to process them. Go ahead and do it that way. But that will take some of the, for real, it takes some of the sharpness out of the liver flavor, right? So now I have already prepared, I've sauteed some green pepper. So I'm going to put a little green pepper in here. Just for the proportions, I'm putting in a couple of heaping teaspoons of green pepper. That's working nicely. And likewise, before we got going, I sauteed some onion. Once again, this is nice Vidalia sweet onion. And so I'm going to put some onion right in there like that. Oh, a little bit more, like the onions. Good. So with my livers, my bacon, my onions, and my green pepper, by the way, if you want to add a dash of Frank's Red Hot sauce, now's the time to do it. Just put a dash in it. If you'd like to turn the flavor a little bit toward the Worcestershire end of the spectrum, you can put the Worcestershire in at this moment. If you like capers, go ahead and put the capers in. It'll be wonderful, it'll be delightful. But for now, just for the basic pâté, I think we're good to go. And I'm going to put the lid right on my little gizmo. It's all locked into place. Saying a little prayer. Oh yeah. And we've given that a little stir. Oh my goodness, absolutely. Now you understand that these mixers have a way of working with moisture, that the more moisture that you would put in it, but you don't want to get it too moist. You'd like for it to be able to stand up to whatever it is that you're going to put it on. So I'm going to add, once again, just a little bit more onion, which is going to help with the flavor. Little bit more green pepper. Plenty of room for all of it in there once it's settled in. Come back down. Some folk recommend pulsing. Oh yes. I love that. I get accused of playing with toys in the kitchen. And I've got to say, this is one of my favorite toys because there's so many things. Oh, wow. Wow, that's just, oh my goodness. I tell you what, the aroma is, the aroma says to me, feast and banquet. The aroma says to me, hot hors d'oeuvres ready. Now, so we've given that a couple of shots with the Cuisinart, and it's starting to get good and smooth. So there we go. Just like that. Tapping that down. Good. Set that aside. Now, one of the ways that we like to present this then is on what's called toast points, right? So we just make a few triangles. Triangles are a good thing for hors d'oeuvres because all we want is to be able to nosh and to move on. So you might think this 180-day feast that's recorded in the book of Esther, you might think that, wow, that was back then and that was a great big thing. I've got to tell you that in modern times, there was a feast that may have rivaled the size of this feast. And the feast in the book of Esther, 180 days, back in 1971, the Shah of Iran sponsored a feast that lasted many weeks, probably like 5 weeks. Now I know that's not anything on the scale of a half a year, but it was a feast in the commemoration of the 2,500th anniversary of the Persian Empire. A city, a tent city, was built in the desert. And along with the tent city, 30,000 songbirds were imported to be able to be in the palm trees and so forth to serenade the guests. Guests from around the world were invited to celebrate this 2,500th anniversary of the Persian Empire, of the empire that's being discussed right here in the book of Esther. Representing the United States was Spiro Agnew. Do you remember Spiro Agnew, vice president under President Nixon? So he went, and I've got to tell you what, the feast cost $150 million for a party, for a celebration. Well, it was interesting that at that party, they actually invited some of the longest lasting, emperors who were in the world at that time. And Haile Selassie from Ethiopia being mentioned right here in the text of the book of Esther. Haile Selassie was the emperor of Ethiopia. It's interesting that he attended this 2500th anniversary banquet that was thrown in Persia, in Iran. And 10 years later, Haile Selassie was gone, the Shah of Iran was gone, these empires were gone. Virtually nobody remembered that somebody spent $150 million on a feast out in the middle of the desert. Look it up on the internet. There's some remarkable photos, and it was evidently quite the time. Well, now you know what? We're coming down to time to see how it all comes together. So I've got my toast points. And I'm going to reach in here to get a little of the spread, the pâté spread. And I'm going to put my pâté spread right there on the toast point. Ooh, that's pretty. Okay, that's just pretty. But right over here, I've got Triscuit crackers, or a reasonable facsimile of a Triscuit cracker. And right there, I do exactly the same thing with the Triscuit. So I've got a Triscuit and a toast point, and everything's better when it sits on a Ritz. So here we've got our Ritz cracker, and our Ritz cracker, you know what? I'm going to work on my presentation skills because I'm going to bring out the brand new presentation plate. And right here we have 3 different ways, quick pâté. Now, once again, this is chicken liver. This is not goose liver. This is not pâté de foie gras, which is like illegal in the United States because they're force feeding the geese and that sort of thing. This is just good old, you know what? This is so good. How good is it? This is so good that I like the notion of eating it as a sandwich. Hors d'oeuvre, that's for lightweights. We want to make an actual top and bottom sandwich. And there, you've got the top and bottom quick pâté sandwich. Now, we said at the top of the show, that the idea behind leadership is to be able to bring a variety of people together. They are people from different backgrounds, people with different gifts and grace and talents, people who may have never met one another before, but a leader is going to bring all those different people together toward a common goal. And you know what? Be careful. Be careful if you're a leader and you think you're always the smartest one in the room. right? The deal behind leadership is to surround yourself with people who have skills where you don't have those skills. And they'll dedicate those skills to furthering the goal that has been set out in front of them. Now, in these banquets, once again, it reminds us, and quick liver Paté reminds us that everybody has a little different taste. Everybody receives things a little bit differently. And so it's the grace of God, it's that hors d'oeuvre grace that allows us to be able to take the people that God has called, bring them together in a community that we might call the church, and then do some amazing and wonderful things. In the book of Esther, the world turns upside down and the world is righted again because of Esther. But you know what? It's that ability to bring together people from a variety of backgrounds, people from a variety of experiences, and to achieve the goal that is set before them. You know what? I encourage you. I just, you know, every now and again, it helps your soul grow to take a taste of something maybe you thought you didn't like. And what happens if, turns out to be really good? Or to extend yourself in a direction, maybe a ministry that you had not considered before that turns out to be a ministry that God is going to use to bless you. So when you think of hors d'oeuvres, think of the grace of God. When you think of, a feast, think of God opening new doors for us. And have adventuresome taste buds. Get out there and try something new. Well, that's our episode for today. It's Quick Paté. It's an opportunity to celebrate. It's an opportunity to feast. Once again, for St. Stephen Church and for SSC Live TV, this is Ken Jobst with Taste and See. Thank you for being a part of it. We will see you next time. Take good care. Bye-bye.